You've found Wickett on Wisconsin, your one-stop podcast for all things Packers, Brewers, Bucks, and the rest of your favorite teams from all over the state of Wisconsin. We're powered by Wisconsin Sports Heroics, online at wisportsheroics.com and the Wisconsin Podcast Association. And now, here's your host, Mike Wickett.
Yo, welcome in this week's episode of Wickett on Wisconsin. Thank you so much for checking it out. Thanks to our friends at Wisconsin Sports Heroics, wisportsheroics.com. All right, so we're going to get into a couple of things here on the show today, on this week's podcast. Obviously, we are going to talk about the biggest story in the National Football League, and that is Aaron Rodgers owning the Chicago Bears. More on that in a second. The GOAT speaks about Aaron Rodgers, which is awesome, which is maybe my favorite bonus sports story to this story that's going on. And then, of course, we have to get to the Milwaukee Bucks, who opened up this season. They got their rings. The banner came down. There were many tears. And most importantly, they came away with the win. But before we do anything, we definitely need to go back to what everyone in the sports world is talking about, and that is Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers snaps it quick. Pressure coming. Scrambles to his right. Pumps and runs. Aaron Rodgers is inside the pylon. Touchdown Packers. It's Rodgers running for the score. Right on cue, Joe.
Tell me you don't love that. Come on, tell me you don't absolutely love that. I could watch that on loop. When it happened, when Rodgers goes in the end zone, seals the deal, everybody's using that term, by the way, the game-sealing touchdown, which it was. It was. There is no doubt in my mind Aaron Rodgers knew exactly what he was talking about or exactly what he was doing, because afterwards, the post-game press conference, he tells the media, I must have blacked out. He talks about blacking out from concussions. He said, I must have blacked out. The media ate it up. My guys up in Green Bay, my sports media brethren up in Wisconsin, they ate it right up. Aaron didn't black out. Aaron knew exactly what he was doing. Aaron is so calculated. He understands. Maybe this is the last time he plays at Soldier Field. I hope it's not the last time he plays at Soldier Field in a Green Bay Packers uniform, but maybe this is the last dance for him to play down in Chicago at the Bears, a team that he has owned. And it's so great what the internet has done with this, whether it's Wikipedia or whatever, Google. People have figured out how to make Aaron Rodgers the owner of the Chicago Bears, and I applaud the internet for that. Well done. But there is no way Aaron didn't know going in, maybe in the back of his mind thinking it's the last time he's going to be doing this, scoring a touchdown in the green and gold at Soldier Field. But he knew exactly what he was doing. And the only thing that was missing from that post-game press conference where he said, I blacked out, and everybody started laughing, was a wink. I can't wink very well. If you're watching the video right now, I'm winking at you. It looks like I'm in pain. I don't wink very well. But the only thing that was missing was Rodgers winking me like, oh, I blacked out. Huh? So you can't really get mad at me because I don't really remember what I did on the field. Aaron knew what he was doing, and it was awesome. I could watch that thing on loop, all right? I could watch Aaron Rodgers score that touchdown, do the belt, tell everybody in Chicago who's giving him the bird on loop. Tell him, I own you, because he does. His record is ridiculous. The Packers' record is ridiculous. They were upside down in this before Brett Favre took over. From Favre to Rodgers, just to be this good against the Chicago Bears is great. And then, as the entire world is talking about this, the entire NFL world is talking about this, who goes on Sirius XM radio? Tom Brady goes on Sirius XM radio.
Bears and the Packers, and watched a lot of that. That was another great game. And I actually, before we get started, I wanted to say congrats to Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, not only is he a great quarterback, but I guess he's now a shareholder of the Bears. He was, I saw a clip of him really enthusiastically telling the crowd how happy he is to own Soldier Field. And it's really great stuff. He owns the Bucks now, part owner of Soldier Field. So he's got a great career beyond football.
What do you own, Tom? How about upstate New York?
I don't care what the rest of that. I don't care about the rest of that conversation. All right. No, don't care. But Jim Gray's Sirius XM show, thanks for the audio there. But to hear Tom Brady talking about Aaron Rodgers, Soldier Field shareholder, Chicago Bears owner. We mentioned he's a part owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. That's awesome. That's game respecting game. That is the GOAT giving love and a shout out to a guy who I believe it's tough to make the argument that Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback of all time when you compare him to a guy like Tom Brady. I believe Aaron Rodgers is the greatest thrower of the football, but he does not have the resume that Brady has. He did not fall in the situation that Brady fell into at 199, the Bledsoe injury, Belichick. We don't need to rehash it all. You know the story of Tom Brady. Brady's the GOAT, but I do believe that Aaron Rodgers is the greatest thrower of the football. And I think Brady would probably tell you that, the skill level that Aaron Rodgers has. But for Brady to take time to start off his interview there with Jim Gray to talk about, to make a joke, to poke fun at the Bears and Bears fans who are all given the double bird when Rodgers comes into the end zone and does the discount double check. I mean, should we watch it again? Should we listen to it again? Should we just run this back? I think we probably should, right? Let's start this over again, and why not?
It's Rodgers running for the score. Right on cue, Joe.
Oh, so good. So good. If you missed the beginning of that, let's try it again one more time, right?
Rodgers snaps it quick. Pressure coming. Scrambles to his right. Pumps and runs. Aaron Rodgers is inside the pylon. Touchdown, Packers. It's Rodgers running for the score. Right on cue, Joe.
Oh, I could watch it on repeat. Telling you right now, I could watch that bad boy on repeat. And again, maybe that's the last time Rodgers plays at Soldier Field in a Green Bay Packers uniform as the quarterback of this team. Maybe it's not. Who knows? We'll see. But what a moment from that game. And there was more to that game, by the way. This was, if you go back and listen to the podcast I did last week about the Bengals win, that crazy kick field goal game, I hated Matt LaFleur's game plan in that game. And whether it was LaFleur or Rodgers overriding LaFleur at the line of scrimmage, I hated the way that the Packers attacked Cincinnati early. And that was throw. It wasn't just throw. It was everything had to be downfield, and it felt like Rodgers kept going for the kill shot over and over and over again in that game instead of doing what was working on the first drive, and that was giving the ball to Aaron Jones and hammering him with A.J. Dillon and running the football. And I know Rodgers loves his stats, and I know that people are, mystified by his ability to throw the ball, and the Packers are often effective when Rodgers has a great day. But it wasn't working early, and eventually they went back to it. This game, you absolutely knew that Chicago, the strength of the Chicago Bears was their defense and their pass rush and their ability to get to the quarterback. And the Packers knew that. So for Rodgers only to have, 22 attempts in a football game? I pull up the stats here just so you know. But it just felt like, there was really a different mindset going into this game. That Rodgers and company, while he did have 4 touchdown passes, early, they were hammering it with Aaron Jones. He only threw the ball 24 times. He was 19 of 24 for 240. No, I'm looking at the wrong game. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. I'm looking at the wrong game. My apologies. I'd pull up the stats. I'm like, he didn't throw 4 touchdown passes. He only scored 24 points in that game. I don't know why that one popped up on my stat sheet first, but Rodgers only threw the ball 23 times, 17 to 23 efficient, 195, 2 touchdowns. But it was the running of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon that kept this game going. Devontae Adams had 4 catches for 89 yards. It wasn't like Aaron had to get the ball all over, and they nullified that pass rush. And there were several times when Akeem Hicks and company actually got to Aaron Rodgers. Robert Quinn mocked the belt. You don't think that was in Aaron's head when he scored that touchdown? That whole I blacked out thing? No. Rodgers wanted to pay Chicago back for what Robert Quinn did. And They got to Rodgers a couple of times, sacked him twice, knocked him down a lot, pushed him out of the pocket. So when Green Bay finally said, all right, we're going to run the ball with Aaron Jones, and boy, A.J. Dillon runs hard. I love him more and more when I see him play more and more, and when they get him the ball more and more. They killed the clock. They shrunk the game. This wasn't one of those where it was like, oh, you got to keep you got to keep the ball out of Justin Fields' hand. No, Justin Fields sucks. All right, 16-27, $174, touchdown, a pick, ran 6 times for 43 yards, had to scramble. I mean, Justin Fields at this point sucks. Maybe he'll be good. Maybe he'll be great. I don't know. But right now, Fields sucks. So it wasn't one of those like what other teams do to Green Bay when it's like you got to keep the ball. What's the best defense? Keeping the ball out. Best offense? Keep Aaron Rodgers on the sidelines. We do that with Patrick Mahomes and whatnot too. But they ran the ball. They controlled the clock. They had 154 rushing yards on the ground. 19 of those were from Rodgers. Do the math. Most of them came from Dillon and from Aaron Jones. So I love the game plan offensively as opposed to the week before. I didn't love the game plan going into that Cincinnati game as it unfolded. Eventually it got there and, with the missed field goals and whatnot. But this game plan I thought against the Bears was fantastic. So props to Matt LaFleur for that. And back to Justin Fields, man. Packers defense got after Fields. And other than the one drive, which, by the way, this is seeming to be a thing for Green Bay. There are 2 themes defensively. One, that opening drive for Green Bay defensively doesn't seem to be so great. Teams are able to, and this was a thing last year too, when it was Pettin and not Joe Barry. Teams are able to move the ball on Green Bay on their first drive. Props to Joe Barry and company and the guys. Do they wake up? Do they see something on film in-game? Because they adjust really, really well, and teams aren't nearly as effective. Khalil Herbert, easy for me to say, the rookie running back making his first start, he was effective early, not so much late. Kenny Clark is the highest-graded defensive interior lineman in the NFL this year. It's not Aaron Donald right now. Maybe it will be by the end of the year. It's Kenny Clark, who, when he went out with that injury, I was like, oh, God. Another one for this team. They can't handle any more injuries with Jair and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and David Bakhtiari and all these other injuries that they're suffering. That can't happen. Luckily, Clark came back in, clogged the middle. Defensively, this team, other than the one drive, the first drive, which, there have been a couple of those where they've had one bad drive. San Francisco had the one late first half drive. The one late touchdown in the first half by Joe Burrow, the 70-yarder to Jamar Chase. There have always been one drive where in the middle of the game or some point in the game where the defense has looked bad and people want to trash Joe Barry. Statistically, the Green Bay Packers are the 6th best defense in the National Football League. Think about where we were at 6 weeks ago, week 1 against the New Orleans Saints, and how Fire Barry was trending and how slowly but surely they have gotten better. Coming up, I'm going to tell you not to overreact to anything you saw last night in the opener for the Milwaukee Bucks, because we have to keep calm, right? Seasons are long. NFL seasons are long. This season, the defense is getting better. Despite losing player after player after player to injury, the Packers defense is getting better. And they may have found a stud in Devondre Campbell. When they brought that dude in, and Russell Douglas played all right, Dean Lowry up front, Rashawn Gary getting to the quarterback. Of course, Kenny Clark is an absolute stud. I love where this Packers team is at right now. After that dog game, week 1, they dominated Chicago. This wasn't a close game. It never felt like it was anything closer than a 10-point game. Green Bay was never not in control of this game. Justin Fields wasn't going to beat Green Bay. Rodgers owns Green Bay. Rodgers owns Chicago. This was not one of those games where I ever was worried. Even if you have Devontae Adams on your fantasy football team and he only got you a couple of points this week, so what? Guys made plays. Other guys made plays. The little pitch pass to Alan Lazard, on the goal line was spectacular. Hitting Mercedes Lewis for a couple of passes. Tunyon caught a pair. It wasn't like Rodgers lit the scoreboard up or lit up the stats. You may not have gotten your normal Rodgers-like day out of Aaron for your fantasy team. Again, 17-23 for $195, 2 scores, no picks. He was great. He was efficient. This wasn't the best Rodgers has ever played, but it didn't need to be because, again, the defense stepped up and has been stepping up. Justin Fields sucks, and they ran the ball. Up next, the Washington football team. That's a desperate team coming to Lambeau on Sunday. They had the Chiefs on the ropes in the first half. Mahomes woke up and then it was a 31-13 final. They had the lead on the Kansas City Chiefs last week. Right now it feels like, if you're a Washington football team fan, it kind of feels like that I mean, the division is slipping away quickly because of what the Dallas Cowboys are doing. But if they don't start to rack up a couple of wins here, Washington's going to be done before we get to, well, Thanksgiving for sure, but maybe Halloween. I mean, they're 2-4 right now. They're in no contention for any playoff spot. Their offense, Taylor Heineke's going to get you a couple of touchdowns, but he's going to give away a couple of picks as well. Antonio Gibson is a little bit hurt. There's some desperation coming into this game. Watch out for Ricky Seals-Jones. He's taken over for Logan Thomas, who's out for the year or the foreseeable future. But Ricky Seals-Jones at tight end is a dangerous weapon. Had a 40-yard touchdown against that abysmal Kansas City secondary. Watch out for Terry McLaurin. Scary Terry has not had the big Scary Terry game. You expect him to bust out. And if Gibson can't go, yeah, that's good for Green Bay. But J.D. McKissick is a threat out of the backfield, catches everything thrown his way. And don't sleep on Jarrett Patterson. You know, you may have slept on Khalil Herbert last week. Jarrett Patterson may be this week's Khalil Herbert if Gibson can't go. I'm recording this at 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. I don't know the status of Gibson. He did not practice today at the time that I'm recording this. And defensively, that might be one of the most disappointing stories in the National Football League is this Washington defense. They're supposed to be an elite top 5 defense. They were the reason Washington hung around with Brady and the Buccaneers in a playoff game last year. They've looked nothing like that whatsoever this year at all. I mean, that's a disappointing Washington team. I know that they were expecting Fitzmagic. He got hurt. Heineke is serviceable. I kind of like Heineke. He's got that gritty. He's got like a little bit of Favre in him where he's just going to sling it. He's a tough dude. He's got some moxie to him. I like that in Heineke. But the results just aren't there. They're 2-4. They come into this game, and they're going to be a desperate team. I am telling you right now, that is a desperate team that Green Bay is going to be seeing at Lambeau Field coming up on Sunday. So be ready for that, all right? That's one I definitely worry about. All right, so we've hit the Green Bay Packers. We have hit the I own you story, which is the story in the National Football League. Now on to the Milwaukee Bucks. And the Bucks wound up winning. Boom, let's pop a Bucks logo up there real quick. The Bucks wound up winning in Game 1 of the regular season. And I'm going to tell you this right now. No matter what you saw out of the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday in their win over the Brooklyn Nets, which, by the way, there is nothing sweeter than Giannis getting a ring in front of James Harden. There is nothing back. There is nothing that can top Giannis getting a ring in front of James Harden the same week that Aaron Rodgers owns the Chicago Bears. Like, if you're a Wisconsin sports fan, and I know in the same week the Brewers got bounced, and that sucked. But in the span of a week, you had I own you, followed by Giannis getting the ring in front of Harden and the Nets. Does it get better than that if you're a Wisconsin sports fan? Probably not. And I don't know what the narrative from the national media, the Stephen A's, the First Takes, the whatever, I don't know what that is on Brooklyn or what it is right now on the Milwaukee Bucks. I have no idea. Frankly, I don't care. It was Game 1 of the NBA season, and there was no way Giannis and company were going to lose Game 1, ring night, in front of that crowd with that energy and that magic. I mean, the tears coming out of the eyes of the players, the smiles on Giannis and the rest of the guys' face. Bobby Portis's face was fantastic. And the Bucks wound up winning, and they won handily. I know at times in the second half, Brooklyn closed the gap. They did that in the second quarter as well. Everybody in the NBA makes a run. But this Bucks team looks very similar to last year's team, and they don't have some of their guys, the new acquisitions. Semi didn't play in this one. Dante is still banged up. You know how I feel about Grayson Allen. He had a couple of threes last night. I think Grayson Allen is your starting 2 or 3, wherever you want to put Middleton, however you like to do that. I'm a big Grayson Allen guy. I know there are a lot of people out there that think Grayson Allen is this punk that trips people. That's in the past, all right? Grayson Allen wants a championship. Guys, at this point in their career. He's the same age as Dante DiVincenzo, by the way. But Grayson Allen wants a ring, and I don't think you're going to see any of that nasty, trippy behavior that you saw from him early in his NBA career or when he was at Duke, when he was arguably the most hated person in all of college basketball. And I think he'll admit to that. He's already atoned for it. He's already admitted it was a stupid thing to do. So I think he's going to fit in very, very well. He's a 3-and-D guy. He can D up the 1, the 2, the 3, and smaller 4s. And not only, unlike the difference between he and P.J. Tucker, who that was his role, he could D 1 through 4 and maybe 5s. He could only hit a 3 from the corner, whereas Grayson Allen, and I'm not knocking P.J. Tucker. P.J. was one of the big keys to the Milwaukee Bucks winning a championship last year. But P.J. was a corner 3 guy. Made more corner 3s in the last 5 years than anybody in the NBA, which is wild to think about with all the three-point bombs we've got, all the three-point bombers we have in the NBA these days. But Grayson Allen can shoot from all over the arc, and that's the biggest difference to me. Is he the defender the dog was? No, that's why they've got Semi coming off the bench eventually to be that defensive guy. But I'm a big fan of Grayson Allen. I think he's going to fit in really well. I don't know what you want me to say about Giannis. He had 30-some last night. He was dominant in the middle. I will say this about Giannis. I watched some video on Twitter. Follow me at Mike Wickett. I'll say this about Giannis. And I don't believe in anything in the preseason. You know how I feel about all preseasons. But Giannis's jumper looked good in the preseason. It had some pop. It wasn't just this, whoop, kind of pushing the ball towards the basket. There was a little bit of pop in the elbow in some of these jumpers. It's still going to be a work in progress. I still don't want to see Giannis taking 6 threes in a game. But if Giannis can actually get that jump, and here's the thing, if Giannis can get that jumper to work, that is so deadly and so dangerous because teams were just letting Giannis shoot. Everybody knew what to do. You just wall Giannis off. You let him shoot. Anything from over 4 feet, there's a good chance he's going to miss. But this was the offseason that was supposed to happen last year, going into what we now know as the championship season. But because of COVID, they played in the bubble. There was no real offseason for Milwaukee or any of these NBA teams. The season ended in whatever, and camp open. What did it end? I don't even remember. But it ended early for the Bucks. But the season started right up. And training camp started right up. He didn't have a full off-season last year to work on the jumper, so there wasn't a lot of improvement. There was minimal, if any. But this was a full off-season for the champ, a full off-season for the MVP, a full off-season for this still young player in the NBA who is ascending still in the NBA to work on that jump shot. And you saw it in the preseason. And again, I don't want to see 15-footers left and right from Giannis. But if he can improve on it throughout the year, and by the time we get to April and May and the postseason, that's going to be trouble for anybody in the East. And I don't know if they're going to make moves at the trade deadline. I don't even want to get into that. I don't want to forecast the Nets' record. I don't talk about Kyrie and all that kind of stuff after one game, although the Nets desperately miss Kyrie. There's no doubt. It's one game. It's one game out of 82. I can't draw a lot of conclusion. I do know that Drew's heel injury or ankle injury or whatever it was, that's going to be problematic for Milwaukee. If that thing if that thing hangs around and lingers, I would give him as much rest as possible. Maybe they don't win as many games here in the onset as they try to get Drew back and healthy, but it was what you expect out of the, opener for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I was cool with it. I mean, who's not going to be cool with it after that kind of effort? You got contributions from all over, including Jordan Nwora. Who isn't excited to see this kid? I kept hearing all last year about how Jordan Nwora is going to be a player in this league. And I'm saying, we'll see. The dude has he has the look of an NBA player. Jordan Nwora looks like an NBA player. He looks like he's got a little mid-range, looks like he's got a little outside, looks like he can get to the rack, looks like an athlete, looks like a guy who's young and hungry, and knows that he wasn't ready to help out this team a year ago as they were going for an NBA championship. And maybe, just maybe, that could be a little diamond in the rough. We saw him get 15 in his first night, getting major minutes in a major game on opening night. how can you not be excited about that? There were a lot of good things that came out of that first game. Again, it's only game 1 of 82, so I don't get terribly blown up about anything. But I'm going to leave the podcast at that, man. That's been very positive. What a fun, positive podcast this has been. We talked about Aaron Rodgers. We talked about I Own You. We talked about a great game plan. We talked about this potentially being a bit of a trap game for a desperate Washington team coming into Green Bay. A little bit of Tom Brady, Jordan Norwa, Giannis's Jay. What a full show, right? Thanks for checking out the podcast. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Apple or Google or Spotify or whatever. WISportsHeroics.com. That's where you can check out not only stuff that I talk and say, but also where I write as well for all things Wisconsin sports with the rest of my team over there, WISportsHeroics.com. Until next time, this has been Wickett on Wisconsin. I'm Mike Wickett. Have yourself a great day. As always, go Pack, go Bucks, and go Brewers.